Today, I'm going to explain how the Bloxburg 2023 elf hunt works, including all of your questions like what the advent calendar does, what time the elves appear, why some people get different amounts of money, what foods you give the elves, why the elves won't spawn for some players, and much more. Hey glossettes, welcome back. How are you guys doing today? Tell me down below as usual. So today I'll be doing an updated elf hunt guide to explain how the elf hunt works and answering the questions I get asked about it the most in my elf hunt videos. Now I'm currently filming this on the 12th of December, which is the day 3 of the elf hunt, but elf number 3 hasn't come out yet, as it will come out later today. Anyways, if anything changes later on in the month and some of the information in this video then becomes incorrect, I will correct it in the pinned comment down below. So make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment for any changes, as well as anything I missed. I'll also be adding anything I missed out in today's video on the pinned comment. Also, I'm going to list off everything I'm including in today's video, so if you're watching this for a specific answer to a specific question, you know if it's in this video or not. The things I'll be explaining today are what the Bloxburg elf hunt actually is, how to get the food for the elf hunt, what food to give the elves, what the elder elf is, how to start the elf hunt, what the advent calendar is for, when the elves are added into the game and where they spawn, how long you have to do the elf hunt and how long you have to get the elves individually, why some players can do the elves on the same day, how much money you get from elves and why people get different amounts of money, when the elf hunt is removed, if you get trophies from the elf hunt or not, why the elves don't spawn for some people and how to get them to spawn, how to tell if there's an elf near you, how to give the elf the food or drink item, and a lot more than that. Those are just kind of the overall topics. I do go into a lot of detail for each little section, so if you have a question about the elf hunt, I pretty much guarantee I probably mention it in this video, unless I've accidentally missed out something giant. But anyways, yeah, that is pretty much everything. I think I've read through my script and just made sure I included what I can see. But before we start, of course, we need to see who's behind door number 12 on the Glossmas advent calendar. So here we are at the calendar, and as usual, I'll be giving you 5 seconds to find where door number 12 is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That was a quick 5 seconds, but it's right over here. So let's zoom in and see who's behind today's door. So today we have June, and that is because June actually drew me as a gingerbread, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. She even gave it my little glasses, and it's so adorable, and even the background has detail. The present has a tag on it saying glossy, and it's just so gorgeous, so I really wanted to add her to the calendar. So thank you so much, June. I love it, and welcome to the Glossmas advent calendar. Anyways, let's get on with the elf hunt guide, starting with what the elf hunt actually is. The Bloxburg elf hunt is an event that happens every year in Bloxburg in December since 2020. We had the very first elf hunt in 2020, and since then it's happened every year in 2021 and 2022 and now 2023. What happens is every day from the 9th or 10th of December, an elf will be added into the game somewhere for you to find, and then you have to give it a specific food item and it will give you money in return. On the very last elf, it will give you a trophy and some Bloxbugs, which is the more rare and expensive form of Bloxburg money. Now this year's elf hunt is slightly different, and not only do we have the elves, we have this advent calendar, which I'll be explaining a bit later on in the video, and the elder elf. Before we get on to the elder elf, let me quickly explain a very important part of the elf hunt, which is how to get the food and what food you actually need, because you need to give each elf a food or drink item to be able to kind of collect the elf. Each elf normally needs you to give it a food or drink item, but some newer players are kind of confused on how you get the food in the first place, so I am going to explain this quickly. So to make food, you need to go to your plot and you need to go into build mode, and if you click the decorate category and then you go into appliances, this is where you'll find all of the kitchen appliances that you need to make food. The most important ones, especially for the elf hunt specifically, are the fridge and an oven. So to prepare for the elf hunt, I recommend placing down one of those each and then going to the counters section and placing down some counters, as you also need those to be able to cook. Then what you need to do is click on the fridge and click get ingredients, and then you can cook. Now you may notice that some foods are locked, and this is because you need to actually level up to be able to unlock more foods, and the way you do this is you just need to cook. So as you cook, you will gain experience, which will add to your level, and you'll be able to move up levels and unlock more food to make. In terms of the elf hunt, the elves normally want the holiday cookie, which is a limited edition Christmas food, so I recommend making 1 or 2 plates of those, as well as a plate of the normal cookies. As the elf hunt goes on, the elves normally get more difficult and they want more random foods. The elves don't tell you what food they want, so unfortunately you do have to guess, but if you watch my elf hunt videos every day, I will tell you what food the elf wants, as well as the location. You can tell if the elf doesn't want the item you're trying to give it because it will say no. So if you turn your game sound up, and I'm going to play a clip of it now, this is what it should sound like. So yeah, if you try and give an elf the wrong food and it says no, that means it wants something else. On my plot behind me, I have one of every single food in the game, which is a bit extreme, yes, but I do recommend you make a few plates of kind of Christmas foods, as they are the most common foods for the elves to want. And as I said earlier, more specifically, the holiday cookies and the normal cookies are really useful to have, as a lot of the time it wants a holiday cookie. So just make sure you are prepared for whatever food the elf may need. Also, you must give the elves usually one portion of the food. They don't usually take full plates of food, they just want one of the food items. So what you need to do is place down the plate of food on a counter and click on it, and then you can click take portion and it will give you one item off the plate, which you then need to go and give the elf. So yeah, overall, just make sure you've got a few plates of cookies and an area to cook to be prepared for whatever the elves might want. Let's move on to the Elder Elf. Now the Elder Elf is actually the first elf you'll see in this year's elf hunt. He is a new addition to the game for 2023 and he spawns right in front of the calendar. You'll also normally get this pop-up saying that the elf hunt has started and it will take you to the calendar. I'm not too sure how long that's going to be in game for, but that's what happened at the very beginning of the hunt. We got this notification and you could teleport to the advent calendar. If you don't want to teleport, then the advent calendar and the Elder Elf are in front of the town hall. Now, to be able to take part in this year's elf hunt, you must first talk to him, the Elder Elf. He will tell you about his missing elf friends and then he asks for a cookie. You then must go and give him the cookie, and the cookie he wants is this one on screen now. It is the basic normal Bloxburg cookie. It is not a holiday cookie. So you want to go and grab one off your plot, and once again, make sure you click the cookie plate and you click take portion so you only have one in your hand, and then you want to head back to the Elder Elf and speak to him again, where he should say something like this. And this is where the elf hunt will begin for you. Now you can start collecting the actual elves. Also, the Elder Elf does not give you money. He is just the elf that allows you to kind of start the hunt. He is not part of it. He doesn't give you anything. Before I explain everything about the proper elves and how that works, I'm going to explain what the advent calendar does. The advent calendar is there to help you keep track of how many elves you have collected, as well as give hints to the locations. First up, each door has a red light around it, but this light will go green once you have collected the elf. For example, when I'm filming this, we've only had 2 elves so far, and the first 2 doors are now green as I collected those elves. But the rest are of course red, as we don't have those ones yet and they haven't been added into the game. Now the actual doors on the calendar are a bit more confusing. The doors contain a hint to each elf's location, and the door for each elf will open the day after the elf was added, not on the same day. For example, on the 10th of December, the first elf was added into the game, but the door didn't open until the day after, on the 11th of December, once we had the second elf. And that is because, like I said, it opens the day after. Inside was a present. Now this isn't a present you can open, it's a hint to show where the first elf was. So the present is just meant to be an object that gives you a hint, and the reason they've used a present is because the first elf was near some presents in trees. The reason they give you the hint the day after the elf was added is because it's for people that might not have been able to find the first elf within the first day and need a hint for it, as well as people who don't use things like YouTube or social media tutorials to find the elves and they're doing it by themselves, which means it's a lot more difficult as they don't really have anyone to help them. They pretty much give you a full 24 hours to find the elf by yourself before this door opens, so if you still can't find it after a full day, you then get the hint to help you out. So no, you don't get the hint on the same day, and no, the doors don't have gifts inside for you to open them, they are just there for the hints. But door number 15 is strangely large, and that's the last door on the calendar, so maybe this one will have something more interesting inside of it. We just have to wait and see. I think it's really useful for younger players or people who, like I said earlier, struggle to find the elves by themselves and don't use social media to help, and it's also really useful to keep track of what elves you've collected, as before this we didn't have any way to visually see what elves we'd got. We just kind of had to keep track of it on our own, so this is really helpful. The last thing to mention about the calendar is that we also have this little table in front of it. Now this table also helps you keep track of the elves, as once you've got them, they'll come over and sit on this table. As you can see, we have the Elder Elf, and then the first 2 elves that I've already collected are sat next to him, so this is a pretty cute feature. Anyways, let's move on to the elf hunt itself, as there is a lot to explain here. First up is when the elves spawn and where. Like I said at the start of the video, there is 1 elf added to the game every day, but some people are slightly confused on when they get added and how this timing works, which is understandable, so I'm going to explain it as best as I can. So 1 elf is added every day up until Christmas, usually around the same time each day. Just because it's the next day for you doesn't mean the elf is already in the game yet, as it has to be a full day, which is 24 hours in between each elf. Also, so far the 2 elves that we've had added to the game have been added at around 9 PM UK time, and if you don't live in the UK, this will be at a different time for you. So on screen I've added sometimes in different places that would be the equivalent of 9 p.m. UK time, so you can see what the time might be where you live that the elves actually get added. The timing could change, and the elves normally get added a bit later and later each day, so the time could slightly change each day, but so far it's roughly been around this time for the first 2 elves, and it most likely will stick to around this time. Think of it like the release of a YouTube video, for example. If a YouTuber says that they are going to upload a video today, and you woke up this morning and the video is not out yet, that is because they are uploading it at a certain time. For example, 4 p.m, and it's not 4 p.m. yet, so the video won't be out there. That's just an example, by the way, to kind of help people understand how the timing works. So just because the elf is coming out today, it doesn't mean it's out yet. For example, when I'm filming this, it's day 3 of the elf hunt, but the 3rd elf is not out yet because it'll come out at around 9 p.m, and it's currently 3 p.m. for me. But let me write this out for you. On the 10th of December, we got the 1st elf at 9 p.m. On the 11th of December, we got the 2nd elf just after 9 p.m, and this will go on and on, so 1 is added to the game each day until the hunt is over. It's similar to the Bloxburg Halloween quest event we had this year, where there was a quest added every day, just like how there's an elf every day. Also, the advent calendar follows this structure, so as we said earlier, you'll get to open the advent calendar door the day after that elf was added. So yesterday, when the 2nd elf was added, we could then open the 1st advent door. Now, some people get confused on how long you have to get the elf, if you have to get it within the 1st day, or if you can get it later than that, and why some people can do the elves all in one day apparently, but some players have to wait. So I'm going to explain all of that now, especially the players doing it all in one day part, because that is just a big misunderstanding. You can normally do the elf hunt up until the Christmas update is removed after Christmas, and it usually gets removed right at the end of December, just before New Year's, when we get the New Year's update. So you have a while to complete the elf hunt. You don't have to do it now. You can wait and do it all kind of at the same time, which I'll explain in a few minutes. How the elf hunt works is, like I said, you have a full day in between each elf. If you get the elf within that 1st day, then you get 2,000 Bloxburg cash. Just to clarify, it used to be 2,500, but this year it seems to have changed, and that's kind of confused people, but don't worry, everyone has been getting 2,000. You aren't losing out on any money. If you don't get the elf until after the 1st day, then you only get 1,000 Bloxburg cash, as shown in this screenshot here, if you were collecting the elves on time within the 1st day of each one being added. So for example, you got the 1st elf on the 10th of December and the 2nd elf on the 11th of December when they were added, and so on like that, then you will get the full amount of 2,000 Bloxburg cash per elf. And of course, because you're doing them on time, you are waiting a full day in between each one, because you're doing them as they're being added into the game. If you do the elf hunt late and you get the elves after the day they were added, then like I said, you will only get 1,000 Bloxburg cash per elf because you were late to each elf. But just to clarify, if you are late for the first few and then you catch up, you will then continue to get 2,000 from each elf. So just because you did one late doesn't mean you're not going to get the full amount anymore. It's just for the ones you did late, you will get less. If you do some on time, you will get the 2,000 for those. Anyways, back to what I was saying, is what this does mean is, for example, if you start the elf hunt on day 5 of the elf hunt, so 5 elves have already been added into the game, you can do all 5 elves at the same time because they've already been added into the game on the previous days. If you wait until the elf hunt is completely over and all of the elves have been added, you could collect them all at once on the same day. Some people prefer to do it this way instead of collecting each elf on time the day it's added, but I do have to warn you that if you do the elves late, not only do you get less money, but you get a different trophy at the end. If you do each elf on time, you will get this trophy with like the star behind it, which is like the best trophy, and if you do them late, you get 2 slightly different trophies, which I'll put on screen now. So according to Twitter, if you collect every single elf late, you will get this trophy, and if you only get 1 or 2 late, then you get this trophy, which is slightly better, and I think you will get less Bloxburgs too if you do them late, so it is worth doing them each day instead. But yeah, just to clarify, everyone has to wait until the elf is added each day. If you choose not to collect the elves and you wait until the end of the elf hunt, then you can do it all at once, but nobody is doing them quicker than anyone else, as there's only 1 elf added a day. They're just choosing not to do them as they're coming out and doing them late. I hope that was understandable, as it's kind of hard to explain. The short version of that is you get less money and a worse trophy if you wait to do the elf hunt compared to if you do the elf the day it was added, and that's why some people get less money, because they didn't do the elf on time within the first 24 hours of it being added. Anyways, let's move on to why sometimes the elf might not spawn for you. I get a lot of comments saying that the elf hasn't spawned for someone, so let me just clarify a few things that might be affecting this. To start the elf hunt, you must talk to the elder elf and give him the cookie like I explained at the beginning of the video. If you don't do this, then you cannot start the elf hunt and the elves won't spawn. Next up is you must do the elves in order. So if you don't get elf number 1, elf number 2 will not spawn. So you need to make sure that 1, you spoke to the elder elf, and 2, you have done each previous elf before the one you're trying to find, and 3, you are looking in the right location. Like I said earlier, the advent doors will be green to show you what elf you've got so far. So if you're confused and you don't know which elves you've already already gotten, then look at the advent calendar and at the table where the elves sit, and you can see how many you got so far. If you are 100% sure that you have spoke to the elder elf and gave him a cookie and that you've already got the previous elves before the one you're looking for, as well as the advent has lit up green, then this is very rare, but it may be a glitch, but I highly doubt that, as it's a very rare occurrence to happen, and for the most part you probably have accidentally missed something. If you're looking for all the elves locations, like I said, I film them every day, so you can go back and check through my elephant videos to make sure you've got everything properly. Also, I just wanted to add here that you'll hear this noise when an elf is near. They also won't spawn until you go close to their location, so make sure if you're following YouTube tutorials, you go right up to where the elf is so it appears for you. So yeah, you just need to make sure that you have 100% done everything right and the elf will spawn. Next, let's talk about how to give the elf the food or drink item. Some players sometimes struggle to actually click on the elf to give it what's in their hand, so I'm going to explain why this might be happening. First up, if you have the show interact tooltip setting turned off, this means that when you go up to an object, it will not automatically show you the button when you get close. For example, with this painting here, when I have the button turned off, I can see the change painting button when I walk up to the painting. But if I have it turned off, this doesn't happen and I have to click on the painting first to see the button. So if you have this turned off, you need to click on the elf to be able to see the button and give it the item. You can also just walk up to the elf and click E if you're on a PC or a laptop, and it'll give it to the elf for you, which is the easiest way to do it. But if you are trying to tap the elf and it's not working, then it's worth turning the show interact tooltip button on and see if it helps, because the button will automatically flash up when you get close and you can just click on it. Also, like I said at the beginning, you need to make sure you give it the right food item, otherwise it won't take it and it will say no. Overall, the elephant will last up until Christmas, and so far of course we don't know what's going to happen at the end, especially when there's that weirdly large door on number 15, so I'm hoping that we get some sort of storyline at the end of the elephant, but that's pretty much everything I can think of to include in today's video. If I've missed any of your questions, then make sure to leave them down below and I'll add anything that a lot of people need to know in the pinned comment, as well as, like I said earlier, correcting any information that may become outdated after I've uploaded this. But that is all for today's elf video. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the elf hunt, and I'll see you all later, and thank you so much once again to June, and thank you to my channel members who are all on screen now. Thank you so much for joining my channel. I love you all. Have a very merry Glossmas everyone. I love you all so much, glossettes. XOXO, glossy girl.